Thank you so much. I was in so much trouble.
Why they fear the flat earth.
How dare you laugh at me? Did you not just see that shit? Oh my god, that thing's been following me all day. I gotta lay low for a while. I'm gonna need a little help from my sponsor, ExpressVPN. Nowadays, everyone is tracking what you do online. You may not realize just how little privacy you actually have. Everything you do is being recorded by your ISP, cell phone provider, ad companies, hackers, and even good old Uncle Sam. Thanks for the heads up, Mr. Snowden. My entire livelihood is online, so I can't risk DDoSers or hackers hindering my content. So I never go online without using ExpressVPN. With a VPN, your privacy is protected and your public IP address is masked, making it impossible for people to track you and dig up your private information. The websites you visit can't identify you, and even your internet service provider can't log your activity. It's like you were never there. On top of privacy, security, and anonymity, ExpressVPN has the added bonus of unlocking content that is otherwise region-locked, meaning you get to watch content that isn't normally available in your country. Holy f***, stop hitting the speed bumps. This'll come in real handy if you live in the Commonwealth, Middle East, China. Your country's antiquated sensitivity laws will no longer hinder your online experience. I know what you're thinking. Oh, Armoured Skeptic, you corporate shill, you're just trying to get us to buy the thing that you're sponsored by. No, I'm doing you a f***ing favor. This is the best VPN there is. ExpressVPN is consistently faster than other VPN providers and has server locations in 94 countries, giving you plenty of options to choose from. It has the best in-class encryption and was even voted #1 VPN by TechRadar. They have apps for every device: Windows, iOS, Android, Linux, Mac, routers, and all the most popular browsers, allowing you flexibility no matter what you use. And the best part is how f***ing easy it is to use. Look, you just open the app, tap the button, boom, protected. Want to change locations on the fly because you need more freedom? Just click Choose Location, click United States, boom, protected. Thanks, Uncle Sam. Wait, by the way, you should get a VPN. I don't know about necessarily for your cell phone, whatever device you use the most.
Just get a VPN.
Whatever you look at porn on, you need to get a VPN.
Okay. Can you even get that on your phone?
It's on my phone right now. Look, boom, protected.
Oh, shit.
Are you listening? Are you even listening?
I'm half listening.
Sir? Are you listening, sir? Take back your internet privacy today for less than $7 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. You're even eligible to get an extra 3 months for free with a 1-year subscription. All you gotta do is click on the link in the description below, expressvpn.com/skeptic. That's expressvpn.com/skeptic. And by clicking that link, you help to support my channel. Anyways, I'm sorry. What were you talking about?
You know, the average globe believer, you know, who believes in the globe because their first grade teacher told them so.
Oh shit, look out!
You know, the average globe believer, you know, who believes in the globe because their first grade teacher told them so and never questioned it. So effectively, they believe in the globe through blind faith. It's purely belief.
Oh God, no.
They'll never admit it to you. Skepticism towards the globe triggers them deeply. The flat earth theory triggers the average blind faith glober very deeply because, believe it or not, a lot of people love how educational systems create a cult of consensus.
Who the hell wants that in scientific fields, am I right? We need to get this consensus shit the hell out of education. I mean, who wants to understand the consensus made by the greater scientific community when we can just adopt chaos and learn whatever we want from any random idiot that has a YouTube channel?
Where basically right and wrong is deemed not through critical thinking and skepticism and questioning things, but rather right and wrong is reached by regurgitation out of textbooks from what some genius from hundreds or thousands of years ago discovered, and then everybody else thereafter just regurgitates it.
Oh yeah, it's a well-known fact that science is only ever done one time, and then those geniuses just tell us what their conclusions are. It's not like they tell us how they came to those conclusions so that we can repeat the experiments to see if we can falsify their claims. No, that's not what university's like.
Regurgitates and spits it out. It's not about critical thought, it's about getting a good grade.
Yeah, in high school maybe. But the early years in any field is spent learning what the pioneers discovered before you. Learning what the consensus is and how people came to that consensus. As you said, science has been going on for thousands of years, and they can't just let any idiot come in and completely change the paradigm. As a student, you have to prove that you belong in the field before a scientist will even take you seriously. You can't just get an undergrad in a field and then start rewriting theories. This is why there are postgraduate programs. This is why people get master's degrees and doctorates. The education system serves as a rite of passage for a reason.
It's about blind repetition to get a good grade so you can pat yourself on the back and think you're intelligent. So that you can get a diploma or a degree and wave it around and ameliorate yourself in front of other potentially smart people of the need to even prove that you're intelligent.
I agree that regurgitation is not a sign of intelligence. I'm not going to argue with that. But citing an established consensus is valid in a debate setting because it can be used to show how the opposite argument is being made from a position of ignorance on the subject.
You won't have to prove. You won't have to actually debate what you've gotten your A in. You won't have to actually critically think or even critically question what you've gotten your big fat letter grade A in when you've blindly regurgitated it and you have an official diploma that tells you I'm actually an intelligent person.
Oh, a diploma maybe, not a degree though. You know what you can get a diploma in is surveying. You might want to look into geodetic surveying. That's surveying over extremely large land masses. It's done with sensors, satellites, helicopters, planes, drones. It's extremely complicated and it does in fact include the curvature of the Earth in its calculations. This shape is actually known as a spherical triangle.
And that's why a lot of people are very scared by questioning the globe, because people find comfort in going along to get along with whatever the current intellectual consensus is.
That's a really poetic psychoanalysis of the average person and all, and it might even be true to a certain degree, but the average person has no reason to question every single scientific field.
They're terrified to think that, wait a minute, if there isn't a consensus on what we live on and the nature of our reality and space and the universe, then that means people might actually have to start questioning. I might have to defend my beliefs.
But the round Earth is so easy to defend. I can do it in just one argument. I literally did it on my third channel as a post. If we're living on the outside of a sphere, then the space around us should appear as the inside of a sphere. Is that what we see?
This is what it looks like when you point a camera at the north at night and then do a time lapse. Everybody knows this is what it looks like. There's a pivot point, usually the star Polaris. Flat earthers think that the whole sky pivots around the North Pole. Sort of like in this animation that I totally did not steal off of somebody on the internet. But if this is how the fucking sky works, guys, then how come when you go south, southern hemisphere, and point the fucking camera at the south do time lapse. It has a different pivot point. And the sky rotates in the opposite direction. If the Earth is not a ball, then f***ing explain this.
To this date, there does not exist a single flat Earth model that explains this. This is only possible on a sphere. Sure, it's not that easy for the average person to prove that we don't live in a geocentric universe, that the Earth stands still and that space spins around us. The average person can't prove that space exists even. But the Earth is a f***ing ball.
Somebody asked me, hey, what do you believe about the nature of a reality? If there isn't a consensus, then you won't just be able to point your finger at whatever popular opinion tells you.
Well, in that case, we can't know anything. There isn't a single scientific field that has a 100% consensus. We'd have to just deconstruct every established scientific field and come to our own conclusions based on what we personally believe and can find on our own. I dare say, my good man, that sounds quite postmodern.
Whatever Neil deGrasse tells you the truth is on the latest episode of Cosmos.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of inaccuracy and even dishonesty to what people like Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson peddle. They are filling in a lot of gaps with some guesswork, but science communication is their literal job, so you have to take what they say with a grain of salt anyways. It's not like they're the ones that are actually studying these fields.
People take comfort in knowing that there's a blind consensus that you can just point to, so that whenever your intelligence and ability to critically think is brought into question, you don't even have to back it up. You can just say, well, look, I got a degree in regurgitating what the current arbitrary consensus happens to be.
Scientific consensus are not done blindly. They're done through peer review, and they're certainly not arbitrary. The paradigm in every scientific field is constantly challenged, and the more those challenges fail, the stronger our resolve in our current paradigm becomes. That's how the scientific process works. You have to do lab work, you have to write papers, you have to prove you understand how we reached the current paradigm.
So if you question that, well, you're an idiot. You're an outcast. You're not like everybody else who went massively into debt for a worthless degree.
If you question a scientific paradigm and don't have the credentials to prove that you know what the f*** you're talking about, you're going to get laughed out of the room. If you think you know better than thousands of years of scientific research, get a doctorate or a master's and prove to us that you know what you're talking about. Write a paper and submit it for peer review. If it survives that peer review, people might actually take interest in it.
Even though throughout history and throughout science, almost everything we thought was true eventually gets eradicated, thrown in the trash for a new, more advanced theory, for a new, more advanced understanding.
And that's exactly what makes science so great, is that it allows for the possibility that we're wrong, that it constantly evolves our understanding of the universe. How do you see that as a bad thing? Sure, you might feel like an idiot for pragmatically believing a paradigm just because there wasn't a better theory at the time, but this is just us growing as a species. You gotta walk before you run, my man. You can't just take high school chemistry and expect to know it all. You don't start off life with all the answers. You're like that fucking video game reviewer that plays the first 3 levels of a game and then judges the entire game based on those 3 levels. You get told that the princess is in another castle a couple times and you just fucking give up and say that science is full of shit. Oh, Toad again? I guess the princess is just a lie then.
The blind faith globers will never ever admit that the flat earth scares the crap out of them because they love being part of the little cult of consensus.
You said this 3 times already, and you claim to be the one that hates regurgitation. This is rich. Might I make a suggestion for you? This might actually help you out at the next party. Perhaps these people are not afraid of the flat earth. They're just afraid of the crazy person at the party that thinks the earth is flat. Because anybody with any amount of scientific discernment knows that the flat earth just simply does not make sense. And it does not explain our universe.
The comfort of being a part of a fake tribe of pseudo-intellectuals who all regurgitate and pat each other on the back, but never actually think critically and question.
By the way, who even is doing this? Who's circle jerking over the shape of the earth? Oh, I guess flat earthers are. Oh, no.
Never actually do what the geniuses they worship in textbooks did to even get into the textbooks to begin with.
What the f***? That's your actual closing argument? Of course the average person can't do what geniuses do. Do you know how rare geniuses are? You just answered your own question. This is why we can't all individually prove scientific paradigms. The average person is barely smart enough to manage a McDonald's chain. So he finishes this video off by showing a clip from another video. I'm just gonna show the original video, because it's worth it.
We have a pair of gigantic binoculars here.
Our location was right near Black Point Park and Marina. We took a little trail out that goes out into the bay. The location we were looking at, including the lighthouse, was kind of near Key Biscayne. As you can see, it is approximately total distance of 13.8 miles. If you go ahead and check here on the anti-flat earth debunking website, metabunk.org, they have an earth curvature calculator. So you go ahead and you type in the distance in miles that we are from the lighthouse and the viewer height in feet. It automatically tells you how much of the objects you see in the distance would have to be obscured over the curvature of the horizon. If you ignore refraction, 77.78 feet, almost 80 feet, would be obscured behind the Earth's curvature horizon. Now, if you take into account standard refraction, 63 feet would be hidden. So that's 6 stories.
There's a couple of fairly significant mistakes he's made in his calculation here. I'll give him kudos that he's being very honest, but he's forgotten to add the island itself to the height of the lighthouse. On average, at high tide, the island is about 15 feet above sea level, which conservatively makes the lighthouse 110 feet tall. And the second thing is refraction. This is actually one of the biggest mistakes that flat earthers make. Standard refraction refers to how much on average the light refracts, but it's a well-known fact that light refracts way more over water than it does over dry land. There's no way to know for sure exactly how much unless you're calculating the temperature of the air in relation to the temperature of the water. And since he has not provided us with this information, there's a possibility here that the light is actually refracting way more than it would on a normal day.
We can see a lighthouse, again, roughly 15 miles away. We can clearly see the majority, pretty much the entire damn lighthouse. It seems that way visually. We can even see little trees, you know, near the base of the lighthouse. We look at the hotels or we look at the apartment buildings. It doesn't look like we're missing 10 stories of building. It looks like we can pretty much see the base of these buildings.
Again, even with the refraction, does it look like there's 63 feet of a 90-foot tall lighthouse missing?
Again, he forgot to factor in the height of the island itself, so it's actually closer to about 48 or 50 feet that should be missing, which is about half of the lighthouse. I find it kind of baffling that he thinks that these two lighthouses look the same. These don't look the same to me. You get a shape that sort of looks like this. Now, to make the lighthouse on the right fit that shape, you have to make it bigger. Oh, it does sort of look like half the lighthouse is missing. He then points out that he can see the top of the tree line from the island, and then goes closer to the island, about 6.28 miles away, to compare photos. And realistically, this is where he should realize that he's up. From 6.28 miles away, you can clearly see that the tree line itself covers half of the lighthouse. So there's no way that he's seeing a full lighthouse from 13.8 miles away. The tree line simply would not allow it. And you can see that the trees are just barely covering the bottom of the lighthouse. Well, that's because the ocean is in the way. This tree line is easily 50 feet tall. Even the Wikipedia photo that he uses as comparison clearly shows trees that are 1/3 the overall height of the lighthouse. And these trees are between him and the lighthouse. And those are not even the tallest trees. The real irony here is that he's using a lighthouse as proof. Why do they make lighthouses tall? Most lighthouses are between 90 and 100 feet tall. If the Earth was flat, they could just put it a couple feet above the ground and it would work just as well. They've been making lighthouses tall for as long as they've been making lighthouses because you need to make the lighthouse tall to offset the curvature of the Earth. Plain and simple. And the same thing when comparing the other buildings. The photo on the right clearly shows a beach and several structures along the shoreline that are not at all visible on the photo on the left. The tree line and these buildings are at least, again, 50 feet. And if you factor in that the refraction could be slightly more than standard, this perfectly explains what we're seeing here. This is a photo of the round Earth. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw and you'd like to see more Armored Skeptic, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you absolutely love me, you can support me on Patreon, or if you have a passing affection for me, you can buy my merch. Links are in the description. But in a debate setting, established consensual science. Everyone in this lab was a consenting adult.